Good evening for the second time to my esteemed guests. Welcome to Harry's show tonight. You'll probably realise I'm not Harry. I'm a much older and much uglier version of Harry. He's asked me to host in his absence tonight because he's revising for and sitting his GCSEs. If you're listening on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. If you're listening on any other podcast or platform, please drop the station a follow and a 5-star review. We've got quite a few things to get through, so what I'm going to do is introduce a wonderful panel. I've worked with all of them before. Phillip King of Frankfurt Spurs. Good evening, Phillip.
Evening, Ian. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on, and a special thanks to Harry, obviously, for doing such a great job on this. And good luck for your exams as well.
Absolutely. And Travis, Tadaros is to do, or Tadair is to do. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it says Tadair is to do, if I've spelt that right, Ian. Yeah. Thank you for having me on, and a special thank you to Harry as well. Go smash them GCSEs, Harry. I'm sure you'll do absolutely well. You're an asset to yourself, and I'm sure you'll make everyone proud. So yeah, well done.
Yeah. And Jojo, Justin, good evening to you as well, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us on, and obviously I think we all wish Harry the best of success and hope it all goes well. So yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, I'll just add my thoughts to that. I mean, everybody's rooting for you, Harry, but thanks for no thanks. It's reminded me that when I did my what we called O-levels in my day was 49 years ago, June 1976. So thanks for making me feel so old, but I'm more than happy to sit in for you, and I think you've got a massive future in the media business. So I do hope you get through the qualifications. Phillip, let's start with the football, because obviously yesterday we played West Ham. I've read quite a lot of criticism on social media about the team, the way we played, the attitude, etc. I've got to say I take a different view. I thought dead rubber, match doesn't matter. There was key things that did matter. No injuries, hopefully not getting beat, but getting some legs into the likes of Kulusevski, who's looked a bit rusty since he came back. And we achieved all three of those. You got a different view?
No, I agree with you. I mean, I wasn't expecting that much from the game. It was clear that the focus was going to be on Thursday, and that the league anyway has kind of been, deprioritized now. I guess though, from watching the game, I thought it was pretty boring. I think at some point in the second half, I did something else, right? I had it on in the background because you could see that the players there wasn't that much passion on the pitch, really, even from West Ham. And look, I mean, in the end, I think it was a match between two very poor sides out there on the pitch in terms of quality. And I think the only thing that annoyed me a bit, though, is that I would have expected maybe just a bit more going forward, like from the attacking players that we had on the pitch. Bearing in mind that it's almost like a kind of a wooden spoon match, right, for kind of who's going to be the worst team outside of the relegated teams. There was some high points though. I mean, I was glad to finally see Mikey Moore kind of turn up, or at least see that he's alive, because I honestly can't remember the last time he actually got any minutes. Yeah. And when he came on, he was very dynamic, right? I think in his first minute, he went past a couple of players, he crossed the ball in, he went forward really well. So happy with that. And look, I mean, I have to keep it simple really in terms of the game, because I think, you can say what you want about how motivated the players are, how motivated the manager is on the league, and potentially still how well the system is working, right, in different games. And Danso was a highlight coming in. I think he's going to be a big player for us next season. And look, Tell's getting better by the game. I hope we do buy him. I probably wouldn't spend over 50 million for him. I think we can negotiate that down. If you read the press, or if you listen to the press here in Germany, there's a lot of press which is very close to Bayern, even more so now with the Kane and Dyer and everything like that. And I guess we should congratulate them as well on actually winning a big trophy outside of the LD Cup. But they're saying that we can get Tell for probably about 30 million. And if that's the case, then it's a no-brainer. And he's doing really well now. And Odebert could get off the mark and, kind of at least get a bit more game time. I think those two wingers are two players that we can certainly, plan with, right, for the future. And, so for me, there were some highlights out of it, but the game was pretty poor from a quality perspective. And, I just didn't want to lose to West Ham. So, there is actually all right, isn't it, really? Anyways, I mean, we don't often win there, do we? I don't think I can really remember us winning there too much over the years either. So, a point's fine, and let's move on till Thursday.
Travis, Phillip has covered a fair bit there. I played golf yesterday morning, and I tell you what, if I wasn't hosting my own show last night, I think I'd have slept through the second half because it really was a ball fest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of them games where people are waiting to see which team made the wrong move first and who was going to score the first goal. It was that kind of game. I think it was a bit different to see the different formation. Obviously, considering what we've been playing as of late, but as Phillip quite said, that Danzo is absolutely superb, and I think he's going to be a massive player. I think he might even get over Radu Dragusin next year. I think he's been an absolute beast in that defence, and he's played really well. Obviously, with Romero not playing as well, so yeah, I think that's probably been one of our best signings for a long time. But yeah, I thought the game was really boring. I just as everyone says, it's West Ham's cup final, and I wasn't excited or entertained at all. I mean, we're mathematically safe from relegation. That just goes to show how bad we really are, and how poor we've been all season. As Phillip said as well, Matthias Tell, I think if we can get him for 30-40 million, I think that'd be an absolute snatch. And he has been playing much better football, obviously being given more game time. I think James Maddison is out for the rest of the season, from what I've read on Sky Sports News tonight, which is going to be a massive miss for the Frankfurt second leg on Thursday night. I think it's going to be a huge miss. But other than that, I don't think the West Ham game was that good, really.
We'll talk about that. I mean, JJ, let me bring you in on this. I mean, apart from adding to what the boys have said, West Ham are a really, really poor side. When you think it was irrelevant to us and their cup final, they were very, very ordinary, I thought.
I think to be fair, both teams were. I don't. Yeah, we can sit there and say you would have expected a better West Ham performance for what I think everyone sees as their cup final, but I think it was just a game of that both teams had no interest in winning. I think you could tell once it had gone to 1-1, the entertainment had sort of stopped, and it just became an absolute snooze fest. And it just, I think the thing that I found most disappointing about the game after all was the comments by Ange. The praise of the players, the praise of the way we played, and this, that, and the other. And it felt like, again, it was another game where I thought, am I watching something different to what he is? Because, I think there should have been warnings not to be watching that game if you're on heavy medication, because that was just that could have sent some people over the edge, really. And it does just sum up, how shambolic, this club and this season has been, that realistically everything hinges now on Thursday. Because to me, I looked at the lineup that we actually put out, and if we are meant to be this so-called serious club that are meant to be going somewhere, then that actually was a pretty decent team. And to me, West Ham were for the taking. going into it. They've been poor, and again, it just clearly, I think we could have saved everybody some time, if they'd have just shook hands at minute 1, and just let everyone go home and let the time tick down, and that'd be it, because it was just really a non-event that you just felt sorry for people that in years gone by, where we have seen some classic ding-dongs between West Ham and Spurs, that certainly wasn't one of them.
Well, before I bring the other two back, let's talk about the lineup. Did that come as any surprise to you, the team you picked?
A little bit. It did a little bit, because part of me sat there and it's something that I find very frustrating listening to Ange, is this whole talk of rotation and helping to support and bring players through, because I think he was really supportive of the likes of Mikey Moore and Archie Gray and things like that at the beginning. But then all of a sudden, like every other manager before him, as soon as the big guns came back, he just dropped them. And he sort of argued back about the fact of that, well, I've given him more minutes than I ever intended to, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but you were like, for Archie Gray, he spent most of it playing a position he's never played before. So that's not really giving him an education on the position that we've signed him for. We didn't spend £40 million on developing, a second-rate defender, which he's done an okay job. But again, that's the equivalent of asking, Vicario to go be a striker. He's having to learn something different with regards to it. So, I sort of looked at it and I thought, I felt a bit sorry for them, because, I thought the team was strong enough, but I don't understand why, Mikey Moore wasn't starting, why we didn't give minutes to Ajay. We made one substitution. This game was nothing. So why not we not have at least brought on, Ajay? Why are we not starting with Kinski, to be fair, giving him some minutes? The guy didn't do a bad job when he came in, and the moment that Vicario's come fit, we just dropped him. And to me, those were the bits that I looked at. And so on paper, I looked at it and I thought we should win that game. So that's why I was disappointed with it. But I was also disappointed that when we made only the one substitute, which in effect was Mikey Moore, I thought, we'll start with them. We're seeing it with other clubs. We see it with bigger clubs do it. You look at Liverpool at the moment with Alexander-Arnold now turning around and, saying that he's going to go at the end of the season. Well, they'll be giving minutes to Conor Bradley. So, this whole argument that if they're not ready, we see other clubs do it, and yet we seem to be the only one that has a problem with actually starting these players. And to be fair, I would not have had a problem if in that lineup Moore had started, Gray had been in midfield, and Ajay had been on there as well, because as we all said, it was a dead rubber, so why not give them some extra minutes?
Travis, let me bring you in on that. I mean, I've been thinking for a little while that perhaps Archie Gray is going to end up as a defender, whether right back or in central defence, rather than a midfield player. Any thoughts on that?
I think you need to be playing Archie Gray in a CDM role, and that's it. Periods. I think that'd be his best position. I wouldn't play him as a defender. I don't know really where I'd play him in defence, because the back four is pretty much covered. So if anywhere, I'd play him in a CDM role. And also talking about Vicario, sorry to change the subject a little bit, but talking about Vicario, me personally, I would absolutely drop Vicario Thursday night and put Kinski in goal. I don't trust Vicario. I really don't rate him anymore. I don't know anyone else's thoughts on that, but I don't trust him. He's too flappy for me, really.
Funnily enough, I've got one of the things I'm coming on to was one of the things Harry's asked me to cover on the show tonight was keep or sell Vicario in the summer. In fact, the other one is Telly wants to talk about. So Harry's obviously well in tune with what you're thinking. Well, let's before I bring Phillip back. What was your thoughts on the starting 11?
Yeah, I mean, it was a different formation, wasn't it? To what we've been playing. I don't know if that's because of the players that were playing, because of injuries, but I didn't really see much difference within the team. It was still as JJ said earlier, it was quite a snooze fest. I didn't really see a lot of difference in that starting lineup or the formation. So I can't really comment on that in a positive way because it was pretty boring, to be fair.
Philip, you want to add much to what the boys have said?
Not really. I mean, they've said exactly what I feel about the starting 11 as well. I think in my kind of initial intro there before, I wasn't too negative really about Ange or about the selection. But look, to be honest, I don't understand anything that Ange does anymore at the moment. And you know, I've got to be honest, I've been Ange out for pretty much a whole year now. So I was already last May or whenever it was when we were in that bad run saying that this guy is not going to do it based on his tactics and where he's positioning players and how the fullbacks are working. On top of that, I think as Justin said as well, like why hasn't he played more of the kids? Why hasn't he given Ajayi a chance as an example? You know, he could have easily started that game. And he proved that he was good enough in that European game when he scored. You know, he's got rave reviews, right?
It was Elfsborg. It was Elfsborg.
Elfsborg.
Yeah.
I know I was there, and Mikey Moore scored that night as well.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Mike. We haven't seen Mikey since then.
Philip,
we haven't seen him since then.
Sorry, Philip. Let me play devil's advocate with you for a minute. You're fighting for your job. Do you trust the kids to keep you in work, or do you play the experienced players in the hope that they've got the knowledge, the know-how to keep you out of trouble?
Well, I think the experienced players have shown that, regardless whether it's their own form or whether they don't understand the system or whether there's a communication problem about how to play, they're not keeping him out of trouble. And I actually think that if he had played the kids a bit more, you know, even in the last 3, 4, 5 months when we were in the middle of the injury crisis, right, he could have rotated better then using some of those players. And if he did it now, or even in the last few weeks, I actually think that some of the fans would have warmed a bit back to him, at least, because they would have seen that he's kind of willing to at least try or change, or at least, you know, kind of blood some of these youth players who we all understood Ange to be, right? A good, you know, a manager who likes to play the youth and bring those people through. And as Justin said, you know, I still feel that he kind of almost felt that he was forced to play Bergvall and Gray, you know, like because of the injury situation, and he had absolutely no other choice. Now, I don't think that they would have got a chance this season if we hadn't lost all of those players in there, despite what they're doing in training, etc. I think we've got quite lucky in some ways that Bergvall has had the impact he has, because now he's pretty much our best midfielder, right, in terms of what he can actually do, you know, defensively and attacking wise. And you know, with Archie Gray, yeah, as you said, like he kind of played him there at the back, but he's not a defender. And when Ange then comes out and says that he thinks that he can be a defender for his whole career, because he said that recently, you know, I just don't get it. So look, I mean, I just don't understand. I didn't understand the starting 11, to be honest. And Kinski, just coming to him again quickly. When Kinski came in January, he came into a very, very difficult situation in the club, right? We were in the middle of that run. We'd almost gone out to, Tamworth was around them, wasn't it, as well? I can't remember. Did he play?
Played at Tamworth.
Did he play at Tamworth?
I'm
almost, so, you know,
he did play at Tamworth, yeah.
Was it like it was his second game or something, wasn't it? Because his first game was against Liverpool, wasn't it? Or Man City?
Yeah,
one
Liverpool.
of those anyway. You know, and he performed really well. And okay, then he made a few mistakes, you know. But look at the pressure he was under from that defence and midfield at that point. We were as bad as we ever were. And, you know, Vicario came back in. He had a couple of really good games. Quite a lot of people were saying, oh, look, he's proven himself again. But Vicario has been on a downward slope since February. And Kinski's good enough to be our number one, actually, I think, in the next 2 years. I honestly... I know there's other fans out there who will say different, and they will say that in if we get rid of Vicario, if we want to get a new number one in, that we should look to get a big player in. But I believe in Kinski. I think he's good enough to go straight in at number one next season.
Far more composed than what Vicario is. So much more composed.
Yeah, he's certainly a better footballer. Forget about
distribution
for a minute. He's a much better footballer.
Yeah, can I just come in on something Phillip said? Because I totally agree with something. Because when you asked him the question about, when a manager is under pressure, should he not be playing his starting players? One of the things that Ange's been quite heavily challenging the club, particularly in his press conferences, is about doing things differently. The fact that the club's, it's been doing this sort of thing over and over again, not giving a manager time, not seeing something through and then getting rid of them and things like that. So he's been challenging the club to do something different. And to be fair, I think a lot of people are with that sort of feeling. But how can it be that he's turning around and saying, well, the club needs to do something different when he's doing what every other manager prior to him did? If you look at Mourinho, he had no interest with the kids whatsoever. We hear the stories about Conte using them as statues for training, for training sessions. Surely, if he is here talking about, unless the club's philosophy and the way it's going is, it's going to bring kids through. They're going to hopefully build on them and then sell them for a profit. We've seen that. That is clear as day is what they're planning to do. Why is it that if, he's had a group of players who have failed him multiple times, and let's not forget, some of those players haven't just failed him, they failed previous managers. So why is it we're turning around and saying that why is it that he is saying that he wants the club to do something different when he's doing exactly the same as everybody else? Because personally, I don't think any fan, particularly with this season, if he'd have started Ajay, Moore, I can't think of the one who was in the under 21s who's been smashing it up, for goals, double barrel name, but it's gonna annoy me. But we've seen players like that. We had Dorrington, who we sent out on loan, who's doing a brilliant job now in Aberdeen. Phillips, who did a decent job at Stoke. We've got so many young players. And yet
Solomon at Leeds as well, Jay. You got Solomon at Leeds.
I think to be fair, that's a different one. And then the only reason I say that is because I think, sadly, because of this club and the nature of this club, there's value in him going. I think he's probably of those assets that they'll look at. And I think because Leeds have gone up now, I wouldn't be surprised if you'll have the likes of Southampton or others sniffing around, and we could potentially smell blood and get a bit more money for it. So he's also a bit older. I think he's like 25, 26. So, we've dropped the age of the squad a lot, but he's still trying to play the older players, because I can guarantee you this, clear as day. I know you're going to come on to it later, Ian, but Son will start. 100% Son will start on Thursday.
100% start?
Son will start. Well, and not being funny, I know you're going to come on to it later, but that was the only bit I wanted to say about it. So
is he going to be fit? Well, let me.
They say he will be, but anyway, let's move on from that. Sorry.
I should say hi to some of the people in the chat. I don't know if they're still here, but if you are, Barney Amber, good evening from Spain. Buenas noches, Barney. Dos cerveza, por favor. I don't know where you are in Spain, but and then evening, Jay.
I think he's talking to me there. So.
Yeah, well, I was wondering that.
We might be talking to. There is a Jay in the chat.
Barney's an absolute legend. Love Barney.
Yeah. Donna Cullen. I don't know who this Donna Cullen is. But Wagwan, but saying hi to everybody. I don't know if he's still here. I've got a feeling it's a bloke. And there's that myself, Donna Cullen, Executive Director. Yeah. I'm head of the PR department. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Anyway, I'm also head of the PR department. Yeah. If you believe the.
You know what I thought when I saw the name come up, I thought, hold on a minute, I recognise that name.
Yeah, but right. Anyway, let's talk. There's a couple of things I want to chat about before we get on to Thursday's game, and that is something you've all raised. So we're into the summer transfer window, and we're not actually that far from it. You've mentioned Vicario. Is he someone you would look to be selling on? Let's start with you, Philip. Let's start with you.
Yeah, I've changed. I've changed my viewpoint on him. I think when he got injured, earlier in the season, I thought he could definitely be our number one or our number two goalkeeper right for the next couple of years. Yeah, we should sell him. If we can get good money for him, maybe sell him back to Italy, assuming we can get another solid second keeper in. Then I would sell him. But I think that goes back to my point where, if I was the manager or if I was even, kind of in the squad planning, talent team, whatever, to literally go all in on Kinski and build him up. And I just would like to say one other thing about Kinski, actually. One of my best mates from school, he's lived in Prague for the last 10 years. And he was visiting Frankfurt last weekend, and we were talking about Kinski. And his sons are both season ticket holders at Kinski's club.
And he played for Sparta, didn't he?
I think it was Sparta, yeah. And he in Czech Republic, he's being built up as genuinely. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Peter Cech, right? Because that's obviously massive boots to fill. But he's been talked about in some circles as kind of being able to get up towards that level. They're saying he is absolutely immense, and we need to trust in this guy. I hope whether it's Ange, which I doubt, but the new manager who comes in along with the kind of rest of the team builds on him. It wouldn't surprise me if we didn't. It wouldn't surprise me if he hardly plays next season and plays a number 2 role, and probably doesn't even go out on loan, so he doesn't get practice or anything. But coming back to the original question again, I think we should sell him. I think there'll be interest in him from Italy still, or Spain, probably. He's still an international keeper, isn't he? He's been in the Italy squad. I think he played for them not that long ago, but I think we should. And I think we can get good money for him still as well.
Philip, can you hear me?
I can hear
you. Philip, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Have I gone? I can hear you. I can hear you absolutely, absolutely fine. Sorry, Philip. I'm Travis. Sorry, that's my fault. My fault. I'm wondering why Travis is staring at me. Duh. And I was hosting so well up to then. Travis, I'm sorry. Yeah. Travis, your view on Vicario, keep or sell?
I think you was too busy on the comment from Donna Cullen there, Ian. I think I'd sell Vicario, and I'm not saying out of spite. I think I generally would. I think it's just cost us too much, and I'm completely with what Philip was saying. Keep Kinski, build him up to be our number 1 goalkeeper. I don't think even Brandon Austin's that bad, to be fair, as a backup goalkeeper. I think he's pretty good. But I think Kinski, when he first come from Sparta Prague, obviously I personally hadn't heard of him, but with his first couple of games, I thought his distribution with his feet and just the way he composes himself, he's calm, he's collected, he knows the pitch, he's only young, I would keep Kinski, and I think Vicario I would sell, as long as we get a good amount of money for him. I don't know how much we bought Vicario for. But as long as the right, obviously Daniel Levy will say it anyway. As long as the right price tag is there, I'd let him go back to Italy. And I wouldn't be surprised if Conte starts sniffing around him with Napoli personally.
Yeah, it'd be interesting with the Paratici links, which if we got time, I'll come on to. Justin, 2 out of 3 say sell Vicario.
You're muted.
You're on mute, Justin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I agree that Kinski should be the number one. I think since Vicario has come back, it's a case of that he's not been himself, made too many mistakes, been too erratic. I mean, obviously we've seen about what he's like in, with crosses and things like that before he got injured. So I'm not generally sort of shocked in terms of from that aspect. I'm not, because sadly we know and we've seen in terms of the finances how little the owners are going to put in terms of recruitment. I think priorities have got to sort of come in terms of where we're going to actually be spending in the summer, because I think the problem being is to get better than what we've got in terms of Vicario and maybe even Kinski. You're talking about a fair bit of money, and I wouldn't have a problem if we kept them but whoever comes in maybe does a bit like what we've seen at other clubs, where you have a keeper for the cups and you have a keeper for the league and things like that, and keep them fresh. At the moment, and just seems to want to play Vicario regardless of anything. So I would be giving Kinski more of a run out, but I wouldn't be sort of having an issue keeping Vicario, but doing it on a rotational basis, if that makes sense. Or if we're going to sell him and we get decent money, maybe then having him compete with Austin.
I mean, from my point of view, yeah, I know. I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. Thursday night is the sort of game where, one, you need Vicario to step up, but it's the sort of game he will step up and make 3 or 4 outstanding saves. And maybe keep us get us to the final. But let's talk about Thursday, because let's be honest, everything we've done for the last few weeks has been based on trying to get to the final of this competition, trying to win a competition, despite the fact that it's been an absolutely shocking season. So let's start with you, Travis, this time, because to make sure I remember your name properly. And yeah, you smile. You see, I know I'm talking to the right person there. What do you expect the team to be?
I think it's going to be a bit of a tough one with. I don't know what the update is with Dominic Solanke at the moment. I don't know if he's injured. I know obviously James Maddison out.
Yeah. Let me fill you in, and anyone listening at home as well, is Solanke has said, or there's been a statement tonight from Solanke saying he expects to be fit. I don't think there's been any update on Maddison, but I think the issue with Maddison is it's quite a serious knee injury, and I think it's the amount of time he's going to be out. I don't see any prospect of Maddison playing this season, and I'm not convinced he's going to play again this calendar year, but that's another story. So yeah. I think you take Maddison out, but consider that touch wood that Solanke will play, Dom will play.
I mean, considering our 3-1 deficit at the moment, I would not start Son Thursday night. I would start Mikey Moore. The reason I would start Mikey Moore is because Mikey Moore will take on his defender. Sonny doesn't anymore. He's past that now. He's past his sell-by date. I think Sonny we've taken on his defender. I would stick Archie Gray in the CDM role. I'd like to see him how he gets on with there. Kulusevski wasn't particularly great against West Ham, but neither were really the rest of the team. And I'd go with I'd probably drop Romero, and I'd put Danzo next to Mickey van der Ven. Yeah, I would. And I thought Danzo was the best man. I thought Danzo was the best player on the pitch against West Ham, personally. So I'd give him at least some game time with Van der Ven next to him, with Porro, and I would start Jed Spence because I don't think he started the first leg, if I remember rightly. and then Dominic Solanke up top. Yeah, but I would start Mikey Moore. That would probably be the only difference. One of the differences in that team. I would start Mikey Moore over Sonny.
I'll give you mine after, but I reckon you're probably 5 players off what he will go with. But
yeah, I'm sure.
Obviously, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's why we do these shows. Philip, let's get your take on what you think the team might be.
Well, he will start Vicario, obviously. Porro will be right back. I would start Danzo as well, actually. Agree with Travis. Start him alongside Mickey, but I think he'll play Romero. I think he'll start Udogie. And to be fair, Udogie's looked the last couple of games, he's looked kind of back to how he was ages ago, right, when he first joined the club. I think I'm okay with Udogie starting and then having Spence as a good option off the bench, either right or left. Up front, I mean, if Son starts, if Son starts that game, I mean, like honestly, I mean, like I can't believe, I wouldn't be able to accept that almost. Like, I mean, that would be a really, really strange decision. Also, in a game like that, away on a plastic pitch, in it's not going to be minus, but it's going to be cold there and windy. He's out of form anyways. As Travis said, Mikey takes the player on. I would like to see Mikey start. I don't think he will. In which case, I'd like to see him come off the bench for 30 minutes at least, when they're maybe a bit weakened. We've got the 3-1 lead. Probably Tell, I would say, starts again if he's up to it. And I would assume he's going to start Johnson on the right, which I'm okay with, actually, because I think Johnson can start that game and, maybe depending on how Bodo play, he'll get into the right position, maybe to pick up a goal. But I'd certainly want to get Johnson subbed sooner than he normally subs him, when he's not having an effect on the game. Often Johnson doesn't have those good games and he's kind of there till minute 80 or something, right? And it's just like, bring someone off with a bit of pace, even if it's Mikey's wrong side. Bring him on, put Odebert on there. Just in terms of midfield, I mean, Kulusevski's the only kind of Madders kind of replacement we have, and he hasn't exactly been in good form since coming back. But I guess he's going to play Kulusevski, Benton Core, I guess. And Sa, possibly. Bissouma looked quite good last week when he played, but again, I'm not really sure that's down to, I'm not saying that he's come back into form or something, but I think he's going to play something like that. I think he'll start with Solanke, obviously. Richie off the bench, I would prefer, rather than Richie starting on the left or something like that, assuming that Solanke's fit, because I think Richie off the bench in a game like that away, he can bring a bit of energy, second half if we need it. I'd like to think we can get a goal in the first half at least. And, I mean, Bodo aren't going to score 5, are they? Like, maybe it's famous last words, but they're surely not going to. If we, if we lose 5-1 or something, it would just be an absolute disgrace anyways. But I can't see that happening. I mean, we've got to go up there. We've got to fight. We've got to set up. And I've got to be honest, though, Ian, I think more important than the starting 11 is probably the way that Ange, gets his tactics or sets up for that game. Really, if he even decides to tweak it or bother to look at it at all. But I think that's probably almost more important than the starting 11 in some ways. How we go there and how we start the game. Do we sit back a bit or not?
Sure, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got a team that I would pick. It'd be different from the one that Ange would pick because, to me, I think it'd be very difficult and brave now to change Vicario for Kinski. I think the fullbacks should be as they were in the first leg. I probably would stick with the centre backs as they were, because obviously they've had that rest. I think it would be a bit strange to then bring in Danso for like Romero, but I do understand why, because I said he was good against West Ham, and obviously we know that Romero's head's elsewhere. It's clearly in Madrid, so it's just a case of waiting for that to go through. In terms of the middle, obviously, we know that Maddison is going to be now out for the season. So I think it's clear that it's going to be Kulusevski who plays in that position. And then obviously wingers, I wouldn't be going with Richarlison and Johnson. I would be going with Odegaard and Tell. Because I think obviously they're getting used to each other as a pairing. You're not going to see us starting Richarlison and Johnson every single week. Whereas I think if we do sign Tell, which I think I've heard similar in terms of the fact that Bayern want to go big in the summer, particularly to try and target the Champions League. Now they've won the Bundesliga back. I think it's clear they want to get some money in. And I think they know that he hasn't performed at his 60 million price tag, so Spurs aren't going to pay that. And I think all the interest there was around Tell before isn't there. So I think if Bayern do accept around 30 to 40 million, I think Tottenham will take it. So, but to me, that should be the future pairing, Odegaard and Tell. But I think it's clear, apart from Maddison, I think it's going to be the same team. With Kulusevski coming in, really, but I've read into a lot about Bodo Glimt and things like that. They are going to be a very, very tough, tough opposition. And as I say, I think in a way it was a blessing in disguise that we did concede that goal, because it means we can't just go there and rest on our laurels. Because I think the first goal will be key. They score first, I think we're in trouble.
Particularly I don't mind if they score first in the 96th minute.
Yeah, that's a different one. But if they score in the 5th minute, it might be a bit different.
Okay. Let me give you my thoughts. When I saw the team for last Thursday, we got rumours that Bergvall wasn't there, and then if you were following the thing on social media, that Bergvall was limp with his foot in a brace, so he obviously wasn't going to play. And then I saw Bissouma was going to play in his place. And I thought, what is that about? Why is he playing Bissouma in that role? And I thought, he's going to play a double pivot. For the first time, he's going to play a double pivot. And he's going to free the fullbacks. And that's exactly what he did. And I thought that was the game where they didn't just invert and sort of hang around in the inside left and inside right positions for the sake of it. They were going outside, particularly Udogie, inside and outside Richarlison. And I thought we were really effective. The other thing is, and it's typical in my view of the luck that this club gets, that to lose Maddison, who was absolutely running the midfield, we were 3 up after an hour, weren't we? That you think, we might get another 1, we might get another 2 here and put this tie to bed. Maddison gets injured. Solanke was absolutely bullying their centre halves, and he gets a knock, and we just lost all momentum, and then lost that silly goal. So my view is that I think he's going to go with something very similar. Our best results tend to be when we play that back 5 of Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven and Udogie. And I would be staggered if that wasn't the formation. There's always a case for playing a back 5 and playing Danso instead of one of the forwards, for example. But I don't think he'll do that. I think he might do that like he did in Frankfurt, when I've got a result here. The old Arsenal Herbert Chapman philosophy, what we got, we hold. And I think if it was 1-0, we were 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, that might be a change he made. But what I'm expecting him to do, and it was working well on last Thursday, I think he'll go with that back five. I think he'll go with Bissouma and Bentancur as a double pivot. I think he'll play Kulusevski in the middle, and I think, you know, he desperately needed to get some miles into those legs, which he got on Sunday yesterday. Don't think he was at his best, but at least he got those legs in. I think he'll play. I would think he will play Johnson. I'm touching wood that the reports are right that he'll play Solanke, even if he's 3/4 fit. I think he'll play Solanke because I think he's important. And for me, the only question is who he plays left. I hope it's not Son. One, because he's been ineffective. Secondly, because coming into a game like that on a plastic pitch after injury just doesn't make a lot of sense. And to me, it's whether he goes with Richarlison or Tell. I wonder if he might give Richarlison, and which is why he took him off on yesterday, because I think it was purely a tactical move. He didn't make any other changes. I think I'm not putting any of my players on that I think are going to start on Thursday, and I think my suspicion is he might go with Richarlison on the left side, as he did last week, to cause them some problems. He's physical. He's got that what we call shithousery about it. So that's what I think he'll do. He's got options off the bench, not as many as he'd like, but he can bring on a Mikey Moore. He can bring on Odebear. He can bring on Tell. He's got some creativity. If we go 3 down and we need to change it, it's going to be tough. I don't think anybody watching, or you guys with me, think it's going to be anything other than a difficult match. The temperature is going to be 8 degrees apparently on Thursday night there, which is quite mild. I mean, that's a November afternoon or November evening in London, so I don't think that will faze the players as much. So actually, the one thing I need from you then, guys, is score predictions. What do we think?
I think it will be something. I think we'll probably make it tricky. I'm going to go with the fact because one thing I found really frustrating was the Frankfurt performance away from home. I thought was one of our best performances of the season. Wasn't pretty at times. Needed to be dogged. Needed to dig in. Needed to sometimes just, get the goal and try and just take the steam out of the game. Things like that. And yet we haven't done that. So if that turns up, then I think we've got, I think we'll win. My worry is I don't think that will. I think we'll do enough. I think we'll probably lose 2-1.
Lose 2-1?
Yeah. So that will still see us through 4-3.
Phillip, I'd bite your hand off for 2-1 right now.
Yeah, as Justin said as well, there. If we play like we did against Frankfurt in terms of the every player with a passion and then kind of sitting in and being dogged, and one other thing which I think is really important, long balls from the keeper. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand it when Vicario starts passing it out, shortly. And then we keep doing this build up from the back. I just don't see the point. I understand why teams do it and, to get through the press and everything. But when our team structure doesn't work anyways, and when we're clearly better because the keeper's not good enough, and maybe we've got direct players up front, just hoof it long. I hope we do that. I hope we sit in and just play kind of a bit more long balls. I would say sit back a bit more. So not really Ange ball, but, just sit in there. If we do that, I'm going to pretty much purely base it on the system. If we do that and we approach the game like that, I think we'll get a draw out there. I don't think we'll lose. And I actually think we may even win the game. I'm quite positive of that because I think that they are still missing from what I understood, they're still going to be missing most of those players, right? Who couldn't play last
I
week.
think there was a couple that are suspended that are back. I'm not sure about the injury ones. There was a couple of defenders that were injured. I thought they looked shaky. I thought Solanke was all over them, and obviously until he went off, and we didn't have that physicality anymore. But
you could see in that game last week. You could see in the game last week that they're a very well organised side, and that their manager has got them. Every player knows the role that they're doing there, right? And they looked really nice how they play football, but I think they had a lack of quality where it mattered.
The one thing the manager did say, just to echo what you were saying, Philip, there about the manager, which I thought was quite telling. One thing he told his players, even when they were 3-0 down, it was just get a goal, because that will dampen the mood. And you could sense that once we got the 3-1, the mood had changed in the stadium, because we were panicked about what could happen. So I think he will tell his players, just get a goal, don't just try and keep it tight at the back, just get that goal, and then let's see what happens. Let's see if they start to crumble and take it from there. So I think that the manager there, he's got a good, okay, we steamrolled them to a point, but I think he's got a concept of.
But that is the way to play Spurs, though, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
that is the way to play
exactly.
Spurs.
Go quickly and then see if they crumble.
But if I just to finish that very, very quickly.
Yeah, because I want to bring Travis in as well on this.
If we set up like that, like quite solid, and play long balls and just kind of try not to concede with a stupid mistake at the beginning, as we always do, then I think we'll be okay. If we play to open, even with a double pivot, I don't think we need Udogie and Porro to bomb forward as much in this game. We're protecting 3-1 lead. I think we're going to score. We're going to score at least one goal. So we're not going to go out. My prediction is that I'm going to predict a 2-2 draw. I'm going to predict a 2-2 draw. I don't think we're going to lose.
If we score, I can't see them scoring 4. I can't see us losing 4 goals. Right. I can see us losing 2-0. I could on a bad night see us losing 3-0. But I agree. I think we'll score there, and I think if we score, they need 4 to get through, and I don't see that. But let me bring you in, Travis. You've been quiet there for a minute because I haven't asked you. How crucial do you think it would be that if we could get the first goal?
Yeah, massively. We need to. I mean, I'm gonna make quite a bold prediction here, and it's probably going to catch you by surprise. But I can see us winning 5-3 on aggregate. Personally, I think one of the only things that's going to let us down in that whole game is if, like Phillip quite rightly said, is if we faff about the back too much, play about the back, because they're going to be honest. They're going to be honest, like like a dog on its bone. They're going to be absolutely relentless with that passing, because they know exactly how Vicario plays. And I think you can see the difference when we do hoof it up the pitch, when Vicario just clears his line, whether it goes to a Tottenham player or not. You can see the difference. We can't play around at the back. It comes off sometimes, but most of the time we get ourselves caught in trouble, and it goes back to Vicario. It's too much of a flapper, and we end up conceding. So. I think that's going to be one of the main things that Ange needs to somewhat coach for Thursday night, just to get it up the pitch and get rid of it.
If I see us playing little balls, little goal kicks across the penalty area, and see them pressing as hard, which they will, I will be chucking stuff at my television, something awful.
Yeah,
I don't mind losing the game. Well, I do, but I mean, to give it away like that, playing tactics which are suicidal.
If Ange Postecoglou wants to keep his job off after Thursday night, that if I would be saying to myself, this is what I need to be coaching, this is what I need to be managing, to not mess around at the back, because they will be honest like a dog on its bone. They will be all over it.
I'm going to park that comment, not because it's not relevant. It is, because it's going to take me where I want to end the show within 10, 15 minutes, whenever we finish. Justin, let me bring you back then. Let's go round. Let's get a score prediction from everybody. Justin, I think let's get yours again, just for the record.
Yeah. It was it's a 2-1 loss.
2-1 loss. Justin.
I just said. So do you mean Phillip or Travis?
Sorry. I'm
happy to take you a third time if you want. I think a 2-1 loss.
I'm looking at Travis saying, Justin, I'm not doing very well here. Travis, your score, you say, so you're 2-2, aren't you, if it's 5-3?
Oh, Ian, can you do another show, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go 5-3 Spurs. Quite a bold prediction, but yeah, I'm going to go 5-3.
Yeah, you're not 5-3 on the night, was it? It was 5-3 on aggregate.
No, 5-3 on aggregate.
Yeah, so that's 2-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me I'm not losing my
all right,
maths
2-2,
well
5-3 on aggregate. Yeah.
So 2-2, 1-2. Phillip.
I'm the same. 2-2 on the night, 5-3 on aggregate.
Yeah, that makes 3 for that. I'm going to go with 2-2 as well. I think we'll score. I think with a bit of luck, if they're pushing on, we can get them on the counter as well. I think it would be great to score the first goal. Fabulous to score the first goal. Well, that brings me back then, Justin, the one in the bottom left-hand corner. Justin, it's not as if I've not been on shows with you guys before either. Justin, will we win this competition? That's crystal balls time, but will we win the competition?
Cool, dear. I honestly don't know, because I look at the other side and I look at obviously Bilbao are 3-0 down, and they've got to go to Old Trafford to turn that around. So I think it would take something monumental for United to crumble. But then I watched them against Brentford, and I was just like, what on earth is going on? You know, it's so difficult to say, because United are almost like us. They've got a manager as a one-way system. You know, there's no deviating from that. They've got a squad full of, you know, people that almost feel entitled, almost feel like, look who I am, rather than who they play for.
Yeah.
You know, and I think both need a lot of work to take them back to where they should be. So, yes, we can win it. Will we? I think, to be honest, your best bet is, if we get to that final, flip the coin, see which way it goes, and there's your answer, because it will depend on which, you know, because realistically, I think it will be a United Spurs final. You just flip a coin, because both teams, it could be like an absolute barnstorming game like we had in the League Cup, or it could be a stink fest like we had in the Champions League final all those years ago. So, yes, we can win it. Will we? Yeah, no idea.
Travis?
Do I think we're going to win the competition?
So,
I think I'd rather play Atletico Bilbao in a final than Man United. But you know, let's be honest, we do own Manchester. But yeah, I think we could, personally. I think we could win it if we go in there with the right mentality, and you know, don't faff about the ball and everything else that Tottenham Hotspur do. I think we have got a good chance of winning it. We've got to.
Phillip?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can win it if we play United, which we're likely to, beating them 3 times this season. But it would be just typical if we lose the 4th one, you know, which is the biggest one.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I've got just too many constant issues and question marks with regards to Ange, in terms of how he sets the team up in certain games. And I think that if we play United in that final, I believe probably it's more likely that Amorim will somehow get more out of his players in that one-off final game. You know, people like Bruno Fernandes will step up, as he's done so often this season, you know. And I don't want to say it's that, you know, word that everyone talks about us, you know, when things go wrong, or when we should win things and we don't. But I have too many issues about Ange that I honestly can see us playing that final and just maybe approaching it wrong tactically. Again, pussyfooting around at the back, which I think is a shame, because I think squad-wise, and if we made some tweaks with our team still tactically now, I think we could be favourites for it. But unfortunately, I think that we're probably more likely not to win the competition. We have a chance, but I've just got a feeling. I don't know. Like, I don't want to be negative, but I don't know. Like, I'm not. I wouldn't go into the final with a lot of optimism, honestly.
No.
Really.
No, I'm probably. I've put Terry's comment up there from the chat because that's exactly my feelings. Assuming that we're going to get through, because if we don't get through it, this discussion is academic. But my worry was: are we good enough to beat Manchester United 4 times in one season? That's really asking a lot. It would be typical of us to lose the one game we really needed to win. So Terry's got another comment on there that I think's worth highlighting. Not having Maddison for the final is a huge loss. Kulu's going to have to step up big time. I think we were talking about, if you were still there, talking about this on for Thursday night. He's going to have to be at the same. Okay, I've got a pretty good idea that I know your view, Phillip, so I'll bring you on to this last. But let's bring Justin back. We win the cup. Does Ange then deserve to have at least a few months at the beginning of next season to see if he can show he's learned the lessons? And
no, purely because we have to be very careful. The club has made it clear where they stand with finances. The Lewis Trust are not going to put any money in. Daniel Levy does not have the money to put in. We are asset rich and cash poor. So we have to be very prudent about where we're going and what we are trying to achieve. Do I feel Ange is the right man for that, regardless of winning the Europa League? No, I don't, because what we need now is a manager who is good at working under a budget. Is good with working with younger players. Is tactically, savvy in terms of being able to play different formations, different systems at different times. Not just in matches but through the season. And we've seen with Ange that he's not. We've given him the 2 years, and in the 2 years he's taken the club backwards. And when we consider the fact of where other managers have been, I don't want to see a situation like you saw at with Eric Ten Hag, where he won the FA Cup. They give him a new contract. They spend over £200 million, and then they sack him less than 6 months later. I think we have to accept this just hasn't worked. We've taken a ride through the Europa League, and we need to accept the club is going in a different direction. I think had we not done what we had done as a club in terms of buying younger players, and going down this philosophy route, then, maybe he could have a chance. But I think that's clear. Also, as well, it's pretty clear that Paratici's going to come back. We've got that Vinesh, who's, I think that's how you say his name, from Arsenal, is coming in as CEO. They're meant to be running the football side. So I think it will just be a case of that he'll go, Lang will go, Mason will go, all the others will go, and they'll start afresh, which, as much as he will still be lauded, he will be lauded in the same way as Juan de Ramos was. A manager who, wrong place, wrong time, but was still able to win a trophy. He was able to galvanise enough to do that, and that is where I think he'll be categorised.
Mason heavily linked with West Bromwich Albion this morning in the press, Justin. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I saw that. Apparently, he wants to wait to the end of the season. To me, I think he is still holding out hope that he'll be given the Spurs job, and I think that is the most stupidest, ludicrous decision you'll ever see, because that will highlight to everybody that the owners clearly have got a corporate yes man in. The guy's been in the job, what is it? I think this will be his that would be he's done it twice already before. If they were to give it to him this time, it would just show it's a cheap option, and they clearly have no aspiration to push forward, which would then help with further protests, which are planned obviously for the Palace game this Sunday.
Yeah. Travis, bring you in on that.
Personally, I don't think Ange Postecoglou is the man to take Tottenham forwards next season, and I kind of echo a lot of what Justin's just said there. But my biggest issue is if Ange Postecoglou goes, who do we get in next? That is the biggest thing for me, because there's only one manager that I'd bring in, and that would be the Bournemouth manager. I rate him extremely highly. Do I think he'd leave Bournemouth? Absolutely not, with how well they've been playing this season. But then, like Justin just said, he's Mason waiting out to see what happens before he goes to West Bromwich Albion. I didn't actually see that news, so thank you for that. I hadn't actually read that. But as you quite rightly said, oh, for God's sake!
That was me, by the way.
As you quite rightly said, it'll be a cheap option, and it will just show the club's ambition with what way they want to take the football club.
Yeah.
And as Justin said, we've got loads of not a lot of money. So that is my biggest fear. I'll probably give Ange a couple of months to see what happens. I don't have much high expectation, but I don't know who would want to come to Tottenham with what's happened in our past, with getting rid of Mourinho, getting rid of Conte. And obviously what he done to Poch as well. I know these managers never won us anything. But it's just absolutely embarrassing from a footballing perspective, because still to this day, I completely agree with what Conte said in that press conference about the ownership at Tottenham Hotspur, because he wasn't wrong. But I do have that massive fear of who do we get in next if Angie's sacked at the end of the season, regardless whether we win Europe or not.
Phillip, there's no point in me asking you your views on Ange, because you've made it perfectly clear. So I'll take you straight to the where I'm going to end this show, and that is, who do you want in?
I would take the Bournemouth manager, as Travis said. Personally, I think my favourites right now would be the Crystal Palace manager, Glasner. If we could get him. He was the Eintracht Frankfurt manager here, right, for a few years, and he obviously won the Europa League, transformed the club, worked on a low budget, wonderful guy, pragmatic. There's a podcast, I think, with is it Jake Humphrey? Is it Jake Humphrey, the guy in the? He's done a really interesting podcast actually recently about how to build teams and stuff. He'd be my number one, and I think he'd be attainable. Some Spurs fans would possibly poo-poo him for his maybe perceived or more defensive kind of style of play in some respects. But I think what's important to say is he can play attacking football as well. He's just a bit more pragmatic, depending on game situations and certain opponents. So he changes the team based on the opponent, which is my biggest bugbear about Ange, because he doesn't, and he's just not on the level required. He's tactically naive. My other one, and I think there'll be possibly even other Spurs fans who would say no because of maybe a perceived defensive style, but I would take Thomas Frank all day long if we could get him. I think he's proven that he can build different teams, right, on lower budgets. He'll change the team around. He can get the best. He can make a team like the sum of the parts is better than the individuals. And he can play attacking football as well. He hasn't done it. He doesn't play, all out attack with Brentford because he doesn't have the players to do it. But he's proven in the past he can. by all accounts, he's not exactly disinterested. I think there's been interest from him to discuss. Those would be my favourites. I know Xavi's been mentioned along with the Paratici hire. I don't know. I think Xavi was linked a couple of years ago when he was available, when he'd left Barcelona or he was leaving them. And I don't really know enough about him, probably in detail. But I do know that he kind of took over Barcelona in a pretty tough circumstances, with the financial issues, which were much bigger for them at the time. They didn't have the likes of Yamal coming through. But, he plays good football. He's obviously a very intelligent football man, who's kind of been there and done it and, speaks good English. If he's aligned with Paratici and, he's up for it, I wouldn't say no to Xavi, But I think if I had to pick it down to one, it would be Glasner.
Okay.
Oliver Glasner.
Justin, before I have my last say on this, and we just say our goodbyes.
Yeah, for me, I'd go Thomas Frank. I think I've watched what he's done at Brentford, not just in terms of getting them up, stabilising them, making them really competitive. You look at the way that they play, it's quite similar, but they're also quite adaptive in their approach. He's been very clever in terms of bringing players through, and obviously you look at what they've done in terms of players they've sold, the likes of David Raya, Ivan Toney, etc. People like that. Obviously he gave Christian Eriksen a chance and flourished under him. So, that is a guy who, to me, I think would be suitable to know that this club is on its knees at the moment, would need to just be stabilised and taken forward. So, yeah, if I had to pick who it was, it'd be Thomas Frank. I think Paratici will probably, though, push for someone like Xavi or somebody like Inzaghi if he is able to get him out of Inter.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with that. I always think I don't like the optics of sacking a manager who's just won a European trophy. We didn't sack him, but Keith Birkinshaw walked out the day after we won our last European trophy in 1984. I suspect you're all too young to have been there, but I was there, and that's one of the most memorable nights in the history. You were there?
I was born and probably watch it on TV as a small
I mean, it
toddler.
was just one of the most memorable nights as a Spurs supporter. I think, I mean, I like the idea of Ingazi, but I can't see it. I can't see why on earth he would leave Inter at the moment. I just don't see that. I think if he was available, I mean, you may as well say, let's get Pep. I just don't see that. If it happens, amazing. So my first choice is actually Xavi. I think he's available. There's no compensation to pay, etc. He develops young players. He played Yamal as a 16-year-old. I think he looks to me to be a good fit. Otherwise, Glasner, I like what Glasner did at Frankfurt. I mean, I watched the way they set up against Aston Villa, and they stifled Aston Villa and played them off the park in the end in that cup semi-final. And I looked at the personnel and the system that they had, and I thought about the personnel we have, and I thought, by God, that could work for us. So Xavi first with a close second. Yeah, you want to come back on me, Phillip?
Yeah, just a question for the group actually. Like, would you take or be happy with Kieran McKenna if he got into discussions, or if he was kind of in the shortlist? Just an open question, because his name's been bandied around.
That to me again is going. It's just, I think I get the idea of it, because obviously he's been a coach at Tottenham and he did an incredible job. But
same with Davis at Birmingham, Justin.
I mean, they've both been really good, but I think the problem being is that you're looking at people. We're a club at the moment that are in an extremely poor position, and we need to be if from what we're led to believe, if we're meant to take this club forward, if we're meant to be in a position where we're meant to be challenging up at the top end, we've seen with Kieran McKenna that he is, I think, slightly naive in some of his approach, and I think that is why I picked Thomas Frank, because if you look at the squad that Brentford went up with, and you look at the squad that Ipswich have gone up with, and you look at the money that has been spent by Ipswich, and you look at the money that's been spent by Brentford when they came up, it's completely different. And yet Thomas Frank was able to keep that team not only in the Premier League, but competing, and potentially now challenging for Europe. Kieran McKenna has spent a fair bit of money, probably the most out of the 3 relegated clubs. And okay, he's got League One players and Championship players there, but he has still got a good enough quality he should have done in terms of his recruitment and his tactics and things like that. So I think there's a step above. And also we've got to remember, we've got to be a bit careful when you're taking managers, because yes, you could argue, well, Vincent Kompany did a brilliant job with Bayern Munich, but you look at the players he went and inherited. And then you look at Rob Edwards at Luton, who got relegated, and now Luton have just been relegated again after as they sacked him. So you have to be very careful about when you're looking at these managers. Are we just bringing them in because they're cheaper options or things like that? To me, it doesn't really matter who it is. Like, for example, you take Robbie Keane at the moment. He won the championship in Israel. He's now in Ferencváros in Hungary, and he's doing an excellent job on the verge of winning the title for them. So is he an option because he understands the club and things like that? But we need to realise that the club, unless it's going to change, unless new ownership or new investment is going to come in, that we need somebody who understands we're working within this financial constraints, and we need to build ourselves slowly back up. We need to be challenging next year probably for Europe rather than top 4 or things like that. And I think that for Kieran McKenna, we've seen from his audition this season, might be a bridge too far.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add to that. Travis, I don't know if you have. I mean, it's a no from me. That's all I want to say on it. You want to have the final word before?
I think I think Justin just made a really good point about it's all well and good getting these managers in, but one, is it a cheap option, and two, is the financial structure of the club going to change with a new manager coming in, and is there going to be any new investment? Is there going to be any more money thrown at this new manager? I can't see it happening because of our proven record with not giving Poch backup, not giving Mourinho backup, financial backup, Conte, and I've just got no. I don't like to be negative or be a defeatist, but it's so frustrating from a supporter's perspective, as I'm sure you all agree. We go around the houses with this every year with oh great, we're going to get a new manager. I wonder who we're going to get. Is it going to be an investment? Probably not. So my thoughts on that are very, very slim, and I don't really know what to say about that as a whole going forward with a new manager.
Yeah, breaking news. Nothing particularly major. Just Leyton Orient of their young player of the season is a certain Jamie Donnelly, who I hope will get at least get a good pre-season with us and a pre-season tour to show what he can do. Guys, I think we're done. We've been an hour and 20 minutes. I think that's probably quite long for a Scarfey show, but. Let's go round and let's see where can we find you. Let's start with Travis. Let's start top right, so we'll go around that way.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Ian. Done an absolutely fantastic job tonight. Always love being part of this podcast. Phillip, absolute pleasure to meet you. Justin, I know obviously we've met on a couple of pods before. Always got some really, really good guests on. You can find me at Official Caster on Twitter or X, whatever it's called nowadays. I am also on LinkedIn where I do a lot of work for my men's mental health and charity work.
Brilliant, thank you. Phillip, let's Frankfurt.
Yeah, I'm on.
I don't know where the banners have gone on the bottom, and that happens on when I'm hosting my show, and I like, how do I get them back? I'm not sure I know. No. Yeah.
You can find me. You can find me at Frankfurt Spurs on X. I'm not really anywhere else. I'm on LinkedIn as well, and starting to do a bit more stuff on YouTube as well. Trying to grow the Spurs supporters club over here in Germany, which is going quite well. But yeah, thanks also again, Ian, for hosting. Done a great job.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
nice to meet
got
you
a few
guys
names
again.
wrong, but yeah. But apart from that,
Thanks.
And Justin, JJ Coda.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a bit the same like Phillip, in terms of the fact I'm generally just on X. I do a fair bit, in terms of on there, and obviously I'll jump on the odd show here or there. So as I said, if anybody wants to question anything, they're more than welcome to get in touch. I'm happy to have those debates. So thank you so much in terms of having us on, and a fantastic show it's been. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Enjoyed it. Yep, you can get me at Shaggy1712. I'll come back to you, Phillip. At Shaggy1712 on Twitter or on X, whatever they call it. I also co-host Spurs Diehards. We go out on a Tuesday, a Friday, and a Sunday. My night is Sunday night, 9 p.m. Spurs Diehards, TTID, Tottenham Till I Die. We're a young, growing channel, so I know Scarfey said it's fine to plug your own channel, so I'll absolutely plug that, so you can get us on there you go, there's Harry, come on, there you go, Harry, great show, thank you all. Well, there you go, if the boss is happy, I'm happy. So all I need to do now is sorry, Phillip, you wanted to come back, didn't you?
It was just a thumbs up to say again, thanks for the great show.
Right, okay, well, no,
great
thank
guests.
you all.
Great discussions.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching live or if you're watching on catch up, do like and subscribe, or hit a review if you're watching a podcast that's not on YouTube. So thanks, everybody. I'm just going to go out with the intro or in with the outro, and I'll see you guys in the back room.